Hi there, this is Opa. Welcome back to the second episode of Letters to My Grandchildren. These aren't how-to videos. These are little videos I've been making just to share some life lessons I've picked up along the way with my grandkids and also with their parents and with you guys too. So stick around and we'll talk a little bit. Today's letter is about a sneaky little trap. It's called comparison. Basically, it's measuring yourself using somebody else's ruler. So, dear Matilda and Hank, you're growing up in a world that's louder and flashier than anything I grew up with. You'll be told in 1,000 different ways you're not good enough or not quite doing it right. Might come from school, social media, or even friends. Throughout your life, you're going to see people that have got more toys, more possessions. Maybe it looks like they take cooler vacations. And if you're not careful, you're going to start feeling that you don't measure up. You'll start to feel like you're falling behind, like you just don't stack up. And I know that feeling. I've felt it before, and I still feel it sometimes. I have to watch out for that. Now, I've never been much for chasing status or big titles or things like that. But where I have noticed comparison creeping in for me is in the hobbies and activities I like to try. And there's too many of them. You know, jewelry making, watercolor painting, photography. I'd take up a new hobby and I'd do reasonably well at it. But then I'd start overthinking it too much. I'd start comparing myself and my results to YouTube videos online or people at the local art club. And I'd start to feel like, oh man, you're just no good at this. You're never going to get this. And I'd start to get discouraged and I'd set it aside, move on to something else. So I've come to realize that comparing what I'm doing or comparing my results to somebody else, to someone else's highlight reel, especially when I'm just starting out, is a sure way to lose the joy in the learning. There's a little bit of wisdom to be found in our old Roman friend Seneca. Lived about 2,000 years ago, and he talked about before he wrote a series of letters to his young friend Lucilius, just talking about similar kinds of life lessons. And he wrote a similar letter about comparisons to his friend Lucilius. And he said, when a man is once found to be good, he must not be watched. Why should he not have someone to whom he can show himself just as he is? So what he's talking about here is the pressure to perform, to prove that you're smart enough. But Seneca says real growth doesn't happen under a spotlight with everybody watching. It happens when you stop comparing, stop performing, and just start showing up honestly. And so he says, you're jealous of others because you think you need to be worthy. But your worth is already yours. Success or failure is kind of beside the point because they depend on things that a lot of time you don't have any control over. Doing well and doing the best you can is all that matters because that's what you have control over. To do something and know that you've done the best you could, that's what success looks like. That's how you can define success. So Seneca believed that success comes when you stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward at how you feel about yourself and your efforts, if you feel you've done the best you can. And he went on in that letter to remind us that we need people in our lives. We need friends. Not people to impress, but people that we can grow with along the way. People that appreciate us for who we really are. We don't have to put on airs or put on and, try to impress them somehow or another. Like I said, in these days, it's even harder with social media, especially. You look on Instagram or YouTube and you say, oh man, look at this guy's got all these cool gadgets. Look at these beautiful vacations they're getting. Look at their YouTube channel. They're getting all these views. And you don't want to judge yourself by somebody else's highlight reel. You want to judge yourself by how you're doing, the effort you're putting into it. Because real life is messy. It's dishes in the sink. It's a floor that's not swept yet. You know, it's a bathroom that needs to be cleaned. It's kids that won't eat their vegetables. That's what real life is, and that's okay. So if you ever feel like you're behind, if you feel like you're not measuring up, just make sure that you're measuring yourself by your own expectations and you're not measuring yourself with somebody else's ruler. So instead, ask yourself, am I being kind? Am I treating people the way I'd like to be treated? Am I putting forth the effort that I know I need to put into whatever it might be? Those are the ways you want to measure yourself, not looking at somebody else. So I'm still learning this too. I don't have it all figured out. That's something I got to remind myself all the time. Starting this YouTube channel, I got to remind myself that, hey, this is a slow grind. I'm not going to get thousands of followers in my first weeks like some YouTube channels would expect you to believe. That's just not the way it works. I measure my progress by how I think I'm doing, by meeting my own goals. So anyways, enough of this. Thanks for listening. If this had some value for you, hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you want to hear more of these. And if you got your own stories about the times that you're, comparing yourself to the wrong set of values, you're comparing yourself to somebody else, not to what you want to actually do, leave that in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. So this is Opa signing off. So wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this, I hope you have a great day.